A few days ago, one of my clients came to me and said, I think it would be really cool if you were to put together a 5 tips on running mechanics. 5 things that you don't want to miss out on when you're trying to improve your running mechanics. And I thought, wow, yeah, that might be kind of fun. And so I set about trying to come up with these 5 things. And I started thinking about all the people I see and all the problems they share with me, and it came down to just a few things. After all this time, I thought, well, geez, it is really only a few things that you got to worry about. So here they are. Tip number 1, most important thing to consider. You got to stick the landing. Stick the landing. What do I mean by that? It's important that you put your foot on the ground appropriately. That is the most critical consideration in running mechanics. When you take flight and come back to Earth, what happens next is what's going to determine your success or failure as a runner. Some people can take a beating. They can run badly for a really, really long time and never experience much trouble with it, but they all have a break point. For years, I've had clients in a room and I'd say, okay, raise your hand when you've reached your limit from weekly volume. 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles, and you'll start to see the hands go up. And the reason is because their load limit is met and their body just won't take any more. So it's critical that you land properly. Number 2, stability is king. You have to be stable. The more stability you can create every time you make contact with the ground, the more force you can generate into your forward progress. If you overstride, you have to overcome that unstable pillar that you've made contact with the ground, and that momentary instability saps your energy, saps your potential to create force. So you essentially have to recover from the collision before you can generate force moving forward. If you land close to your body, you're going to be more stable. The more stability you create, the more force you're going to generate. Number three, and this is going to get a lot of people. You have to alter your perception. Altering your perception is about making sure that the corrections that you believe you're making are in fact taking place. I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody come in here, they're absolutely convinced that they were landing on their forefoot, and I video them and show them in fact that they are not. They are landing on their heel. So try to imagine that you've invested all this time thinking you're doing the right thing. You're making the corrections you need to make, and as it turns out, you're not. You're actually landing on your heel, or you're still overstriding, or you're making a lot of mistakes that you thought you weren't making. So you might feel like, wow, I've been making all these corrections and I still have all kinds of problems. Well, in fact, you've not been making the corrections. You've been living under a false assumption that you're doing things right, and in fact, you're doing it wrong. So you're pissed. You're thinking, I'm getting injured and I'm doing it right. Where in fact, you're not. You're actually making mistakes. So what I recommend is that you actually have somebody video you. If you could set up a rig like I do, I'll show it to you in the video here in a bit. You should be able to watch yourself run. If you can get a side view of yourself running on the fly so you can see what you're doing and make the corrections as they're necessary, it's going to make a big, big difference for you. Number 4 is learn to flow. What the hell does that mean, Richard? Learning to flow, in my mind, is about developing harmony with your energy system. There's been so much written about segregation of work. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, 4, 5. Do this today, do that tomorrow. Where in fact, your body doesn't function well that way. Your body wants to be able to flow into the energy system, because going over your threshold is not a bad thing. It is not the enemy. Lactate is not the enemy. If you don't know how to process that lactate, you'll have problems. But it's because you've never really developed a really nice relationship with that part of the energy system. So you're going to find that if you're going to be competitive and you're going to race, you're not going to win races while you're aerobic. You're going to need to be anaerobic to win. And that means you're going to have to make peace with that energy system. I've written countless bits of information, training programs, and the most recent and the most important, I think, is called Training the Dark Side. And if you haven't got a copy of that, I highly recommend you visit my website, get yourself a digital download of Training the Dark Side. It's going to explain in great detail what I'm talking about when we're discussing flow in your training. And the final tip, number 5, is you need to run well before you attempt to run fast. So many people I know, they're trying to be competitive and they just throw the baby out with the bathwater. They get on the track, they do these really intense track workouts, and they are not prepared for that kind of work. As a matter of fact, the more fit you are, the more likely you are to injure yourself because you're strong enough to tear something. And you know, guys call you up on the phone and say, look, we're going to do a track workout tomorrow. You want to come? And you're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that or not. Because you remember the last time you did it, you were so freaking sore afterwards. Your hamstrings were lit up. Maybe your knees were bothering you, your back was bothering you. It's because you're exacerbating the circumstances. You're pushing yourself into speed and you're not landing on the ground properly. You're not mitigating the ground impact properly. You're not into the correct frequency to cause yourself to be stable while you run. And all of these problems are going to lead you down the road to injury. So before you start concerning yourself with how fast you can move, you had better invest some time in how to run. And again, I would lead you back to the book I just recently wrote. If you feel like you need some personal attention, you want to reach out to me personally, you can find me through my website. And I do virtual coaching. I do virtual gait analysis. If you want me to take a look at the way you're moving and help you correct the problems you're facing, I'm happy to do it. But again, there's basically 5 things. You want to make sure that you're sticking the landing. You want to make sure that you're stable when you land. You want to make sure that what you're doing is what you hoped you're doing. You want to try to develop peace with your energy system. Really, really important. And by all means, don't go into speed until your body's prepared to do it. I wish you the best. If you like what I have to share with you, please subscribe. It helps to build my ship. I got to retire sometime soon.